We back. Where's that coming from?
I had to apologize to the folks for you. Until you clicked in, there was no sound coming across here or YouTube.
Where's that coming from? It's playing now. I hear it.
Apologize to the folks for
feed,
you.
Man.
It's not playing on our end.
It's coming through one of you guys' feed. All right. Well, welcome to Squatch Talk. I'm Pat. I don't know if that worked out or not, but we are here tonight, and we're with Patrick Vaughn and Gary Spikes. Daniel had last-minute family kind of thing going on. He might join us in a little while. We'll see. He was our original guest, and yeah, we're here to talk about that beast in the night, the one you can't see so very well. Am I hearing feedback? And so without further ado, let's jump right in, man. Welcome, Patrick. Welcome, Gary. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are y'all? Good to see you, Gary.
Pretty good. Kind of got called in at the last minute, which I ought to make you do it. I ought to share a screen and make you. Folks, I was fixing to stick a plate of steaks in the smoker. It literally was fixing to stick them in the smoker when he messaged me. I need you, brother.
Well, I already owe you an axe handle, so put it on tab, you know.
Well, the beauty of the steaks is I can just put them in later. It's going to be gorgeous tonight.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you, Gary, for coming in last minute like that. You know, like I said, man, Daniel he just had a situation last minute, and understandable thing. You know, he actually I need to send him the link, but he'll jump in here hopefully in a little bit. He might be chomping in the bit right now. I don't know, but let's just jump right in, man. Like the whole topic, beast in the night, observing them at night, which is one of the reasons why I brought you in even last minute, Gary, is because you know, you've had some experience with this as well, Patrick. For sure, we've heard about that, and we'll talk about that some more tonight. So let's just jump right in. I'll start with you, Patrick. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, tonight's discussion is spurred on by observations of their of the target species' ability or apparent ability to camouflage very well in the darkness. And I would like to, you know, discuss that with as many people who have seen or experienced and encountered that. And I know I talked to Daniel Benoit about it. Maybe he'll show up, hopefully. And I believe Gary also has had an experience with that as well. So, and this, no, and this goes back to research. This is, you know, where the rubber meets the road. Research at night. You know, if you're researching out there and you're shining your light, can you shine one and not see it? For me, the answer is absolutely yes. So, you know, what's it going to take? You know, if I set up an IR camera in a pretty tricky, you know, situation where one might walk up and uncover it, will they show up in IR? You know, so there's a whole myriad of questions and issues with what I've seen, and I would like as many people chime in on as they can.
Gary.
You know, there's so many factors involved here. I mean, especially with the eye shine, you know, the different angles, different types of light. You know, there's an ongoing discussion. I'm going to open up a can of worms about, you know, maybe that the hair is kind of translucent, which we'll get to that later. And here's another thing, too, that, you know, we've had this discussion in the past about, you know, with me with my military training, even a ghillie suit breaks up your outline. You know, that's the main thing at night. You know, a lot of people thinks that solid black is better for at night. It's really not, you know, a mottled color, because a solid black turns into a shadow. And then when you factor in the speed and cover levels, and then, you know, I hate to say this, if we go down that route, you know, we don't know what they can do And Patrick, I know on my show, you got in a pretty serious debate with a guy about this, but we don't know what that infrasound or energy manipulation, for better terms. I think it's based upon an infrasound thing, that maybe the sound can alter electrical frequencies or something like that. But yeah, curious. IR, night vision, and thermal imaging, which we'll get into that a little bit later. There's so many factors here, so this is going to be a good show. I'm glad you called me in on it at the last moment. It might be worth a stake or two.
Yeah. Steve's kind of jumping the gun on us there, but hey, that's Steve. We love him for it. And yes, I'm glad. Like Gary, you are the perfect person to fill this role last minute. So hopefully Daniel will show up and can be a part of the discussion as well. What's up, Patrick?
Oh, I was fixing to poke fun a little bit, but I'll keep my mouth shut.
All right. I know.
I mean, I'd like to throw information out there so we could derive hypothesis and form theories on what the possibility is. My personal standpoint is that the hair has something physical about it, because it's not that it just blended in the dark very well.
Yeah.
It is that when I step forward with my Q-beam, okay, well, I'm sure it'll come back up. Curious. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yes. Go ahead.
But when I step forward, I've seen 3 for sure in the dark, and 1 I'm calling possible because I can't assign it to anything else. Okay. And looking back on it, all the times there was a slight glistening within the hair of the light that was on it, and it wasn't very bright, but it was still there. So I don't understand any of it.
Well, Gary can explain it all. You're lucky. You're a lucky man tonight, Patrick. Gary can explain all of that. Go ahead, Gary.
Seriously doubt that. The physical, how would we say, the shimmering in the light. The one thing, Patrick, when we was talking about that before, it was damp that night. That could have maybe caused, we discussed that, it maybe could have caused that. Because every time that the one that I seen in the night, of course, there was not a direct light source shining on it. So maybe there is a reflective pattern there. And if that was the case, then it could lead towards maybe a visual manipulation. But there was no direct light source on the one I seen. And you hear a lot of reports that when they do see them, it's like they absorb the light. It's almost like a black, and I've heard you say that it almost like it, how would we say it? It's almost like a black hole, of a visual black hole. It's just a black shadow. So I think a lot of it, I have to go back to the polar bear, and I know people's corrected me wrong on this. And one of the comments that somebody said something about, have you ever even seen a polar bear? Well, I'm one of the few in the lower 48 that's actually hunted one. I didn't get to harvest one, but I got within 20 yards of one. And their hair, they blend in so well in their environment. They're not actually, white. But it is proven that their hair is a little bit, translucent. I think a lot of it is the physical side of things. But as we'll hear about later, maybe what we're seeing on the other side of it is literally on the other side of it. It might not be Sasquatch. It might be something representing itself as Sasquatch. But
yeah, and that's a terrifying thought.
And
well, here's something that I would like to get out early, because I heard there was a study about people's memories, and memories are poor, or they can't recall correctly, or all that. Just go back to World War II. Am I frozen?
No, you're good.
Okay, just go back to World War II when our soldiers fought in and found the concentration camps. Okay, they reported back what they saw under great stress and battle and fighting and weary and tired. Reported accurately what they saw. Then the cameras show up, they film everything, and the films and photos they offer evidence of the testimony of the soldiers that fought their way there and reported it back from memory. Okay? Now, you compare that, that is a mass amount of people sharing the same experience, describing the same thing, word of mouth and writing down, and then cameras coming in and capturing it and proving what they said, what they wrote down was true. Now, also, you have a mass amount of people, tens of thousands of people reporting, seeing this being, describing it very close to the same thing, under great stress sometimes of the situation itself. And then you have some science people come out and say, "Oh, their memories, all of a sudden these people's memories can't be trusted." But you could trust it in World War II. It was proven that under great duress, memory does recall accurately. Now you can say, even if you say 20% of those soldiers that described everything got something wrong. Well, they still describe the very similar situation that the other 80% was accurately described. So if you, in the Bigfoot world, that's observing this phenomenon, if just 20%, if 40% of them are missing something, or aren't quite getting it right, they're still 60%. They're still describing the same thing. Okay, so memory is good. That pretty much debunks whether you can rely on an anecdotal account. Now, that being said and out of the way, I would like to discuss Gary's encounter.
Well, before we go to that, I want to back up something you just said there. At certain levels in the military, and even in law enforcement now, but especially in the military, part of your training, like when you go through SEALs, BUDS, or when you go through, your SEERs and your Ranger school, they literally they give you, during times of sleep deprivation and duress and physical stress, they give you stuff to memorize. And then you might have to do a forced march for 2 days. And then on the other end of it, you have to quote it word for word. So, this has been a study that's been going on in the military and training that's been going on in the military for a long time. And now the law enforcement has brought this up. And it's been proven time and time again that memory, especially if you've got a little bit of training, is accurate, for the lack of better terms.
Well, that also poses a question of, in science, when a person goes into an endeavor to do experiments and in a field of interest of them, how many go in with a preconceived notion of what it should be that could lend bias to the experience or experiments? Okay, I'm not saying that's every time, but how much is human flaw?
Well, so you're saying that if somebody goes into, let's just for lack of better terms, somebody's going into the woods to search for Sasquatch, their intentions would automatically manipulate their observation of the stimulus they're seeing in the woods, right?
That's an analogy, but actually what I was thinking of is you have someone who has an interest in human thought processes and memories, and they go in and do a study on memories, and they pick 10 people. Now, not everybody's the same. I'm terrible at names, but I'm great with faces. Some people are terrible at faces and great with names. Now this person picks 10 people and puts them through a study, and that scientist, what's the chance of that scientist having an already preconceived notion of memory or false memories is true? Okay, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Now, false memories can be true for certain people. That's why I went into the 20% or the 40% that might get it wrong, but they're still determining and still saying the same thing as the other 80.
But
You know what I mean?
and it's also like you said though, even if the stimulus is not accurate in their mind, their interpretation of that stimulus is accurate and dead on. Correct? Is that what you're saying?
Well, how much of it could be bias?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, could be
Yeah.
interpreted. Felden also had a statement earlier. Says, and the reason I'm bringing this up is he really wanted it to. Pat, if you can find it, so there is a theory military. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like 10 comments up.
This one?
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Well, I was just saying we might want to keep that in mind and address that when we get to that about making their fur invisible. I have actually, in my experience in the military, have never heard that. Even in my law enforcement, my research and career, I've never heard that actual statement put that way. I know that they would have an interest in them. I mean, we hear rumors of that, but that's a very good point. I mean, if they can, I could see where the military would really be interested in that.
Well, I watch documentaries on technology that bends light around you, and there actually is a panel that is much like a what you would carry your riot gear, your shield.
Yeah,
There's a guy that can make a shield that you can tuck behind, and the light literally wraps around you. You can't see it. You can't see you. So yeah, that technology is on the cusp of invention, I believe. And I know they're playing around with nanocams and trying to put cams on a suit to where it would you could, you know, what it sees is brought back to you through small LEDs.
gotcha.
You know, almost like a predator suit. So I watch a documentary on that. So I know that is being researched, but I don't know the link between Bigfoot and military.
Yeah. I've that's a very interesting topic that I would be almost afraid to get too deep into because of my position with the military and my personal influences. But so you said something about my encounter. You talking about the one we had last weekend?
Yeah, something that was in the dark. You saw one in the dark, or
Now, the whole thing with this, I've got echo somewhere. Let me try something. Sorry. I put on my good headphones and I can hear everything now. Test. No, it's coming through the backside somewhere. Anyways, we, as most everybody knows that follows my channel, we went to Brown Springs, and now that we've released, I've got permission from the other teams to be able to release the information. We went up the hill and a whole bunch of stuff happened, and then that's the whole thing is I can't put this on Sasquatch. I don't know, honestly. We did find what we thought was tracks, and you actually kind of. I let after reanalyzing it. I think that the pictures that I sent you are, in your opinion, and we won't talk about that here, but I think that you're correct on that. It's the reason we haven't released them as such yet, without further evaluation. But pretty much we just went up the hill and a whole bunch of supernatural stuff was happening, and me and my father both literally had eye shine at 30, started out at like 30 yards, and it came in on us. As I advanced 10 yards, which would have been about 30 foot, it actually advanced. Usually that'll push them back. And now, folks, I was running total black. It was a full moon, or total dark. It was a full moon, so you could see through the brush, 20 or 30 yards easy. And the eye shine was radiating off of the moon. And we seen the eye shine, and the reason I knew it was good eye shine is you could look at it as it was turning its head, and you could see the distance, in between the eyes change as it was turning its head. And then as it would pass behind the tree, you would literally see, it the way it would do it. Then you'd see it blinking, and see it blinking with one eye, and then turn its head this way. And this went on for like 5 minutes, us watching this. Multiple occasions of eye shine prior to this that it's a whole different part of the report, but this actual area. So I advanced, had a spotlight in my hand, of course, had my pistol. But I advanced towards this because everybody was getting very uncomfortable, feelings and everything else. Call it infrasound, call it what you will. I know I've got my own theory on what it is. But as I advanced forward, my dad advanced with me, but he waited until I was like 30, probably about 20 feet in front of him, and then he started following me, and he was off to my right rear, so he had a different angle at it. And what was funny is we audibly heard the thing coming up the hill. It was coming up a ridgeline at us, and we was up on top of the hill. And then it as I advanced, it advanced. When it stepped out from behind the tree, now here's the kicker: when it was at the first tree, it was above my head, and then it comes down and comes at me. I literally could see the shadow. It was not on all fours. It was on bipedal. Its shoulders was a little bit narrower than mine, and it was about 4.5, 5 feet tall. With eyes, I'll explain that in a minute. Its eyes, I'll say the distance, was this wide apart at 4.5, 5 feet tall. So unnaturally large eyes. It moved to within 20 foot of me. The whole time I'm talking, and I've got it on video, the interaction, and I'm going to release it pretty soon, of me and my dad. I'm like, Dad, it's right there. It's advancing forward. He says, I know, I can see it. It comes forward to me and gets behind another tree. And you can, like, if this was the tree, it's the reason I put my microphone this way. It's peeking from behind the tree looking at me. And I'm interacting with this thing. I mean, I'm literally watching it. It's watching me. I can see it turning its head. I can see it blinking its eyes and it turning its head like this. Dad says, son, there's another one. And off to its right, about another 20, 30 foot back that popped up over that little ridge, was another one to the right, moving to the right. So I have one in front of me and one circling would be my left, its right. And Dad is literally about where that speaker is behind me. So you're talking 10, 12 foot because he came forward. I wish Dad was on here too, but it moved forward. I moved forward, and Dad seen the one to the right. And then he said, son, there's another. And to the left, farther back, had come up the hill, another one. I don't want to get into all the supernatural stuff that was going on. This is exactly what I seen and what Dad seen, the physical aspect. So I'm literally, we've got one to the right of us, one to the left of us, one right in front of us. It's a 2 million watt spotlight. And I pointed at this thing and I literally say, I'm fixing it. And you hear me say it, I'm fixing to light your ass up. Now, folks, when I say this, I'm saying this, I don't know what this is. If it was just me seeing this, I would put it as my imagination, my thought pattern, because, a single person seeing something is it's a single person. But when two people are seeing the same thing, it really changes my spot of thinking, there's not no hyped up deal here. We had people 30 yards away up the hill that heard the whole transition in between us. I put my spotlight on it. Dad says something along the lines of, son, I've drawn my pistol. You need to move back. And I'm like, Dad, I don't think that pistol's going to do any good. And I said, I'm going to hit you with a spotlight. I was talking directly to it. And when I did, now I'm going to cover myself here. I seen the eye shine and the shadow of it in the shoulder. It was peeking around the tree. I hit it with the spotlight. It disappears. Now, I'm not saying that it physically disappeared. Visually, the thing disappeared. Whether it ducked behind, but I'm telling you, when I can see it, and it literally, you're talking a split second to turn the light on. I don't think it would have moved behind the tree without me seeing it. Now, the tree was big enough to hide. The tree was about 32 inches in diameter. I think it would have, hit something. I had the light on it, and you hear me say in the video, and I'll put it all together and show folks. I look at my dad and I say, Dad, it's not there now. He goes, I know, I'm looking at it. I'm looking, it's not there. Within I think 30 or 40 seconds, I back off of the spotlight and it's back there. By this time, this military combat vet, started backpedaling. As I backpedal, the thing drops to all fours and starts advancing towards me.
Time to start shooting.
You probably ain't never seen a fat boy run so fast in your life, running backwards. And Dad drawing the pistol and moving backwards. And then it literally advanced like probably 10 foot and just stopped. Just like this. It was almost like these things was playing with us. Okay, I'm not saying this is Sasquatch, but it was definitely something at night that you could see in the darkness. But when you lit it up, you couldn't see it. There was no shadow, no eye reflection, or nothing. Like I said, if it had been just me, I would think I was going batshit crazy. But Dad seen it, and everybody else that was with us heard the interaction. I have it on video. Now, I have not reviewed that video, folks. I've been too scared to. I'm going to have to. I've been kind of clearing my mind, and I've been talking to Pat, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Patrick much. But Pat, I told you that I was almost on overload from all the stuff that happened there, and this is just one of minor things of a lot of stuff that happened. But once again, perfect example of multiple stories of us hearing of it either absorbing light or just being able to disappear in light. So whether it's Sasquatch or something. If it's a Sasquatch, it had to have been a little one. We did find tracks up there that was large scale within 50 yards of there. And we did hear something big, bipedal, moving through the woods. But,
fair question.
Adam, of the Guardians, Gads, did I ask that? No, I am not familiar with that.
I would have to clarify that with you, Steve. I think he's talking about the guys that, witness a portal opening and closing and opening and closing and opening and closing, and two little tiny Bigfoot ran out of it and ran back in. For hours and hours this went on, and they never bothered to film it. So, yeah, I think that's what he's talking about.
I'm putting this story out there for people to rip it apart.
And dude, yeah, I didn't mean to insult your story.
No. What I'm saying is, flat out, if it would have just been me, I would have said like I said, you're batshit crazy, or it was your imagination running away, because I was already kind of hyped up with everything else that happened. Because Dad's been actually got trailed by a big cat here in Oklahoma. And anybody that's ever been around a big cat, curious, ask your wife. She knows what I'm talking about. When they're on the pursuit, you feel it. I mean, you will literally feel it.
Like a mountain lion?
Yeah, any big cat. There's just something about it. And Dad felt it. And lo and behold, down the hill, and I've got that on video, we found a big cat track as big as our hands. And I visually seen it ran across the road. It ran across a dirt road. Now, here's a key question, though. Okay, when we get into this, wonder if maybe I was dealing with a cat or maybe multiple cats. Folks, this is within 30 miles of the infamous Tiger King compound.
Oh, God.
I'm serious. I mean, and this is a factor that we discussed. We had to, but I don't see a cat being that intelligent to be able to, in a split second, go behind a tree, or whatever it did. But, that's just that's what happened. I'll present the video, and I'm going to let people. It is what it is.
Sure, yeah. And you said you haven't even reviewed some of it. Right?
No. I'll be honest with you. I got about halfway through the audio of that encounter because everybody sent me their all their data, their raw files, so I could go through it, and just the audio alone got me so shaken up that, there was little stuff that happened that on a paranormal sense. And see, this is what I'm saying. It's
right.
I have to be very careful how I say this. You know how I always tell people that I'm straight line Sasquatch paranormal. Two separate things. And I'm still saying that, but I'm in this situation because we did have documentable Sasquatch evidence within, I'm not going to say the exact distance of that cemetery, we'll say within 3/4 of a mile. But I have to go with Pat Trick on this. It's going to be hard with Patrick and Pat. Is something representing itself as a Sasquatch that is more of the paranormal nature? Because we had so much other activity that's paranormal along with the Sasquatch. I don't know where to go with it yet.
I hear you. I don't know. What do you think, Patrick?
It sounds very much like what I've run into. The first one I encountered in the dark was my second encounter. I couldn't see its whole body, but from here up, because it hit its head on a tree. It hit its head on a tree, and it's looking at me, and I have a pin light in its eye, and it's just a black face. It's not really showing. It's almost, and it's a very, very small light, but it's not refracting any light for my eyes to see. But now the next one in the dark was actually at a farmhouse. I was tracking because my oldest son's best friend had a bad encounter, and we get there and I see something. I'm not gonna call it a Sasquatch, but I'm gonna call it something. But it comes around the farmhouse, and there's an old shed back there, and I go around the side of it, trying to see what this is. Well, it takes off running, and what it is, there's a dark blur, about 6'2", 6'3", and it's darting into the shed. Okay, I don't have a light on it. This is strictly starlight. And I had two choices. Step in front of that doorway and see what was in there, and possibly put these two kids at risk. Or, it's already ran away, so just leave it alone and go get the encounter story the guy had, which is what I did. And then the next one was in the field. Shorty and I in the field. We have an expeditionary crew behind us of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And Shorty and I are watching this thing in the field. The people behind us are talking, and the camera shining past us, catching its eye shine, walking out there in the field. But from my natural standpoint, natural eyes, no light, it is literally a black hole, almost like it's absorbing light, just a black hole walking through there. You can see the mass of it with bright, glowing eyes, almost like what was on that artwork. I mean, that was literally it.
Right.
Okay, that picture on your artwork, that's what I saw at 100 yards walking through a field, but the eyes are red. And I noticed at a distance they seem like a black hole, but up close, where the ambient light is hitting them, there's almost like that shimmering, it's almost a silverish grayness of of what they are. I don't know how to describe that, but. And then the last one in August, I'm 6 feet from it, shining the Q-beam on it, and like Gary was talking about, I didn't have my Q-beam off. I mean, I'm tracking, and I see its eyes watching, and it's 6 feet off my left knee, and I shine it in the face, and you don't see the face. You just see the eyes. All this, it's standing between two trees. I can see the trees. I can see the color of the night. It's not there except for its eyes. Until it turns its back, it ever so slowly, like a clock hand turn, because it didn't know I could see it, except it realized, it sees my eyes. So it's like, it starts turning where I don't see its eyes. It turns. I step forward and I put that QB in the middle of his back, and you could still, the same color that I saw in the one that was the blur running, and the same color that was on, just kind of around the one's face that I saw in the second encounter. That same color was in that glistening of the hair that was in the brightest spot of my spotlight when I stepped forward and just shining it. So,
how did you have the gumption to do that? I'm just curious. Like step forward towards a big giant thing you don't understand? Like, how did you have the gumption to do that?
A lot of I go into crisis mode. Honestly, I set everything aside in crisis mode, or I would lose my shit if I didn't do that, because I have lost it. I lost it and got chased out for a mile. So researching these, I always have to go into research into crisis mode, and put everything aside and just be a witness and an observer and security. That's where I go. And so watching this thing and I can't see it and seeing its eyes turn, step forward, I just had to do it. It seemed kind of stupid, but at the time it was valuable to me.
Can you clarify this? This just popped up, Patrick. Can you clarify that? I think there was some missing context or something. I don't know.
Before Patrick said it was totally dark, now starlight. I'm so confused. Well, totally dark means I did not have a light on. I was dark. There was nothing out there except for the ambient, what was naturally in the atmosphere.
And that's pretty dark. I mean, the starlight's useless unless you have night vision goggles.
Well, depends on the cover and the cloud cover.
Yeah.
Because me and Patrick talk about this a lot. Patrick didn't learn it from the military. I learned it from the military, but he automatically uses his rod cell patterns, adjusting his eyes, and a lot of folks do that unknowingly. But and let me jump in and say something about Patrick also. I know the guy. We've become very good friends. The three of us have. But certain people have a certain response. We call it fight or flight in the military. A lot of people say it. And even like with me, especially after I had my encounter in 2016, now you put all of that, you have to advance because it's almost a psyche issue. If you don't hold firm, I call it flatlining, and when somebody said for me to watch my language. Well, you know what? I'm not saying the F word, but when the shit hits the fan, he's just messing with me. I know who it is. It's
okay.
Former everything. It's like, watch your language P3 and pull out the guitar. But thanks. But when the shit hits the fan, and that's the reason I like Patrick so well is because folks, I called Patrick up one night when I was just about ready to flight, not fight. And he told me what to do, and we dealt with it. And y'all have heard that story, but certain people have that kind of response. Correct, Patrick? I mean, it's one of the deals you have to deal with it, or if you don't, it's like when you get terrified in the woods. You have two different, and there's nothing wrong with either caliber. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's a lot of folks that has a terrifying experience and never goes back into the woods. There's nothing wrong with that. That is totally respectable. It's just the difference in personalities. Like me, I was obsessed. Yeah, some people freeze, fight, or flight. Yeah, I was obsessed. So now I am obsessed. I have to go back out. And that's what Patrick is too. Because, just like he said earlier today, and I got to tell on you, Patrick, or last night, that, he's been struggling sleeping because of a lot of this.
Yeah,
go ahead.
That's part of the reason why I had my head down, all that artwork played, because I'm not trying to I'm trying to keep my mind low key, so because I slept last night a little bit, and I'd like to not screw myself out of that tonight. I'd like to get some sleep.
Sure.
Things are better than it was 6 weeks ago. It's it is doing better, but and it's a stupid problem to have. I don't to me it's a weakness. And I don't harbor that, I really.
That's interesting to me, Patrick. Why don't you just walk away from them and leave them alone then?
You can't.
I can. I can. I can. It's easy.
To be honest.
Fuck you, Bigfoot.
Be honest. The beginning of March, second, third week of March, I thought about taking a break. I'm like, I'm gonna have to take a break from this. But then. But then, and Gary had a guest on that helped me out recently. He's what he did is he says there's no past, there's no future, there's just right here, and that helps out. because I can lay down and shut it off here and shut it off here, and then all this settles down, and I'm out for a while. Helps out a lot, but
Okay, continue. Go ahead. Yeah. It's stupid. Dude, that's your ego talking, bro. Like, it's not stupid. If I saw an 8 foot tall monkey man in the woods, and I'm like, man, that screwed me up. Like, I'm not gonna say that's stupid. Like, it's understandable. If you see your best friend get his head blown off next to you, you'll never say that's stupid. You'll say that's understandable. Everyone can understand that. And I that scale of these things, they're big. Let's just say 8 foot tall, 4 foot wide shoulders. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, on a average, they get bigger.
That's huge. I mean, you can't even comprehend how big that is until you stand in front of a sort of a scale model, like a replica, let's say. That's big, man. That's very intimidating. It's bigger than a grizzly bear, or roughly the same size of a grizzly bear standing up. But I don't blame you. And that sort of brings up another thing that both of you have dealt with over the years. That if I go outside the Bigfoot world to a skeptic, and I bring the PTSD thing up, is that a real thing?
I don't claim to have it, but I've been told
something along those lines. Anything along,
to me, PTSD is something that happens to soldiers that are really, really, real heroes, really that's been through the shit.
Right.
Those are the ones, that get that. To me, I just had a disturbance.
Yeah. I mean, that terminology, that nomenclature gets assigned to soldiers.
Let me.
But it's a real thing in real life. Go ahead, Gary. Yep.
This is a very dear subject to me because I do have documentable PTSD from the military. But my father is in a unique position because he's a trained counselor. And for veterans, PTSD is not a military thing. PTSD can come from anything. I've met people that had PTSD from dog bites, from car wrecks. PTSD is a state of mind that's uncontrollable. It's an uncontrollable reaction. And Patrick, I respect your, I'm going to agree to disagree with you, and I respect your opinion. And I know what you're doing. You're just trying to put the PTSD that the soldiers have up here and yours here. But there's really no difference in it. It's just a matter of apples and apples and oranges and levels. It affects each person differently. There are different levels of PTSD. I do have PTSD from my encounter in 2016, and it's healing at this point. I've always been a true believer. If you lose sleep over something over a period of time, you've got a form of PTSD. I mean, if something bugs you to the point that you are changing your natural patterns of behavior, you have PTSD. Curious Cryptid, very well put. Patrick does express symptoms that other people would diagnose as PTSD. Any traumatic experience can lead to it. It very well put, Cryptid. Thank you so much. It is not a weakness. It is definitely something.
I was good so long as I had it repressed. I was good. I actually can deal with the now and the present, and I could go track one. I'm going to go track one here in a couple of weeks. I can deal with that. It's just that one bothered me.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Yeah. To me, that's weakness. It shouldn't have bothered me, but it did. And I feel stupid for having that problem. But I'm going to beat it. I'm going to be able to put it back where it belongs.
Right there, you're willing to go back. You're going back and facing it, and you're dealing with it. So you're on the healing end of it. We're both in the same boat, and we both been dealing with the same guy about it. But got a focus issue with my camera.
I thought you always looked blurry like Squatch. You've been hanging out with him too much.
Tell you what, back on the hair thing, knowing what we as humans can do with the right training and the right equipment, aka ghillie suits and camouflage and using natural forage and cover.
Dude, I think I think you both know that when you flip a light on one, when it's there and you flip a light on one and it goes away, I mean, there's something.
That's a whole different level. Yeah, that's a whole different level, and that's where I'm getting at. It's so funny that you called me because we've been dealing with this for the last few days. What are we dealing with?
Well, what's a hypothesis that we can throw out there about this? Multiple or what, or however many we can do?
I know what mine is. I honestly think that what I was dealing with was more on the spiritual level. I don't think it was Sasquatch. I think it was super. I don't like saying supernatural. I think that it was more spiritual, paranormal than it was. I have dealt with physical 16, 18 inches away, Sasquatch. And what I dealt with is even my feelings. What I was dealing with this last week was not the same feeling that I got. And what's funny, it's Sasquatch terrifies me more than these things do.
Yeah,
well, exactly.
Oh, go ahead, Basher. Go ahead. No, well, I was just going to say, like, going back to your original encounter, Gary, where you saw the thing face to face, literally.
Yeah.
Like, literally, right? And
just like that.
And yeah, it's big. It's this big thing, right? It's like, whoa. And then it just darted off real fast.
Absolutely.
And you've always described that as they're so natural, they're supernatural. And now, like, so this maybe this other thing that happened to you recently here in the past week, you're like, I don't know, that might be more paranormal. So I just want to make sure that can you still distinguish those two things, or are those lines getting very blurred right now?
In my personal opinion, in my own, I'm not going to sit here and feed y'all a line of crap. In my personal opinion, I believe that there is a physical, biological creature, person, anomaly, target species, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, of a primate nature. Because we are of a primate nature. We are actually a primate. Running around in the woods, especially here in Oklahoma and Louisiana and Arkansas and Texas, all over the country. But there's too many factors here. We have sightings of these things in areas that biologically they shouldn't be there. I know from a personal fact, dealing with this paranormal, spiritual paranormal, that certain entities can represent themselves in multiple facets. So I truly believe in my heart that some of the stuff that people are seeing is a representation of a Sasquatch.
That's a strange coincidence. Why don't they represent themselves as velociraptors?
They very well could be, because we're having...
Nobody's seeing velociraptors, though.
Folks, grab that book right there. Great book. He's out of Dallas, Texas. He talks about pterosaurs, velociraptors. Just about everything in the urban complex. I gotta plug it.
Well, you just me. Like, holy cow, you picked up people actually are seeing velociraptors.
They are.
I didn't know that.
I literally got sent a video. I've got it right now that I cleaned up. Sorry, Patrick. I literally got picked up right now, and it looks like a raptor running through somebody's backyard in Florida.
Well, I know someone saw a pterodactyl in Georgia.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But
right here.
But it's and me and the damn paranormal. The paranormal stuff is very difficult for me. I try to stay physical, and and investigate the physical, and whatever comes into it. I'm not against paranormal. I'm not against supernatural. It's just wherever it leads me. And I do have some questions about how do I feel them stare at me? How does one look at me when I'm laying on my bedroll and I feel both its eyes on me, on my skin? You know, what does that? You know, I don't know. How is it that I shine one at 6 feet with a spotlight and its eyes are just like that looking at me, and all this is just the color of night? There's no discerning difference between them and night. Okay, so yeah, I do have those questions. They're on the pegboard to be answered. I'm just waiting for the answers to come in so I can put it in the formula of, okay, this is where it belongs. You know.
I mean, aren't we getting into too many questions to answer? I mean, like, this whole Sasquatch phenomena itself is, there's so many questions to answer there. There's a huge void of knowledge with people just seeing, right?
Yeah.
Just seeing one specific thing.
Absolutely.
8 foot tall monkey man covered in hair, naked. So we have tens of thousands of people admitting, like, so we probably have hundreds of thousands of people who have actually seen him. I'll say in the past 50 years. I'm ballparking it. 1 in 10. That's not a bad ratio. Someone argued it would be 1 in 100, but I'm not going there. I'll say 1 in 10. Admitting that they see 8 foot tall monkey men, not purple dragons, not unicorns, not Care Bears, none of those things, dude. 8 foot tall monkey men.
Or
why? That's a big enough. That alone is such a huge question to answer.
I mean, and that's where we're going to have to. I got to be very careful how I say this. Where we're going to have to draw a line. I mean, it's very hard to draw that line in the sand, even myself personally. You know, Patrick, I know, me and you know each other quite well. Even on I know why you try to stay away from the spirit. You know, the paranormal side of things. Mm-hmm. But it's such a gray area. But if you go back to specifically the original, statement we was talking about of hiding in the dark, being able to hide your form or absorb light or manipulate light and eyes, I have a very good statement to, for everybody, especially guys that's been out doing a lot of research. How many times have we seen eye shine in the woods without an outside source? I know you see it circling a campfire. I've seen it then. I've seen it in the headlights of a truck, in a flashlight. I don't think I can recall any time that I seen from anything, cat, dog, cow, horse, human, bear. I don't think I've ever seen eye shine reflection from the moon.
No, not with a normal animal. That's part of the thing too. Which I have made observation that they have reflective eyes. My first encounter, when I was diving out of the woods and I looked to my left and looked at her, she's looking at me. And in her eyes is the sun, as bright as the sun, looking right at me. It's not like I could see, that's just what pierced me, is that she was reflecting the sun in her eyes, that reflective.
Yeah.
And in last August, when I hit that one in the face, okay, I saw amber, it was green pupils, amber irises, and then it looked at me. And at the direct angle I was shining at, there was a starburst pattern, about 8 to 10 millimeters further in the eye. There's a starburst pattern behind all that. And then I lost the angle, and when I lost that angle, all I saw again was amber irises, green pupils. So
now,
there was something deeper in there that just the right angle you can pick up on.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I seen mine, the light, of course, was coming from behind it. The ambient light from the moon and stuff up, and I was looking through the glass. But here's the kicker for me. And I could understand why there wouldn't be enough light to reflect off of the glass. And if that was the case, then it would have blurred my vision of what I was seeing. But the eyes on the thing that I seen was just, they was proportionate. They was not abnormally big for I'm not going to say the animal, the target species or the entity or whatever, because it was so massive. But the eyes was, that big around and this far apart. Of course, the head was humongous. Okay. They was just black because there was no ambient light being reflected to them. And that's the reason I ask all the time, because in my physical encounter, there was no, how would we say, no ambient, no reflection. And when I think about it in the woods, unless there's a campfire, unless you've got a lantern going, unless your headlights or a flashlight, I've very seldom just randomly seen eye shine out in the middle of a field, But you hear of certain encounters. There's one very famous one of one walking across the tundra in the Inuit country in northern Canada. And it's like it's got red spotlights in its eyes. And you hear them, and here's where I'm leaning towards this. There's also a very common rule with demonic possessions and demonic entities. They have self-ambient red eyes. The hellhound, the ridge walkers and stuff. So are we dealing with two separate things, on a physical nature?
Well, the red eyes I saw that were out in the middle of the field, my tracking partner was freaking out, elbowing me. There it is. I looked behind me to see where everybody is. I do a security check when I'm out there, probably every 30 to 45 seconds. I take a quick head snap around and make sure, and I don't care if it's something going on or not going on, I'm aware everybody is just because of safety. But I do a quick head snap, the camera's behind me, and it has all these red emitters, IR emitters. They're all red. It's literally IR emitter this big and then camera. That's how big it is. And all these emitters, 30-something emitters, I look back, I see those, I look back forward, and I see these red eyes, and it's almost like the light, it's almost like the light is being sucked in, pulled into their eyes, and it looks, but it looks at me, and then it looks right at me. And you could literally see it looking into you.
Focusing in on you, yeah.
And it's just, and that was the red eye shine I saw there. But I don't know if it was attributed to the red IR emitters, or if it's just something in the ambient atmosphere that was picking up, or if it was a combination. I couldn't tell you. But we weren't shining a light on it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I had a Q-beam in my pocket of my jacket, that big, and forgot it was there, because I'm just, I see it, and he's elbowing me, and I'm at a loss for words. I'm not sure what the hell to do at this time. I forget about my spotlight, and this thing walks. It walks by, looks at us, turns, walks, looks at us again, turns, walks, looks at us again, and then he's out. But he didn't leave. He left. He went around to the right side, because the camera had his eye shine out there, watching me, still looking this way, trying to see him. But he was out of my peripheral. So they know you so well that they can get out of your peripheral. And that is a great hunter, a great predator knows how to get out of the peripheral of animals. That's a good trick.
Well, a couple of things you said, and one of the Raptor Crazy says, "I'm sorry, don't say Bigfoot eyes glow with no light." I'm not saying they do. I've never experienced it. I've heard reports of it, and I'm saying in my physical and in my knowledge base, the only reason they would glow red is from which I did, Pat, me and you and Daniel did a show a while back, and I brought up that paper from my buddy, that's optometrist, and he said there's multiple factors, the different types of lights, different angles, even blood pressure can affect the radiance of the eyes, because the more blood's pumped into the retina, it can show red. I've never seen self-ambient eyes. That's what I'm saying. I've never seen self-ambient eyes out in the middle of a field without no light. I've never seen nothing even from the moon reflecting on them. That's the reason I wish Daniel was here, because Daniel has actually experienced that, and that would be cool if we could, get his opinion on that.
Yeah.
But if there is a self-ambient with no light, no stimulus, eye shine. This is what I'm saying in my personal belief. If there is a self-ambient eye shine, according to everything that I've learned in my paranormal studies and physical studies and tactical studies, it's a spiritual stimulus. I've never physically experienced. Now, my dog, I've got pictures of my dog with red eye shine all the time because of the stimulus, the type of light. And but because some cameras shoot off IR, and here's the key factor. Now, Curious Cryptid, here's the guy you need to talk to on that. Certain trail cameras, we got to keep in the fact what kind of light flash they have. If it's LED, if it's IR, or if it's a passive IR, that would affect the eye shine also.
Well, I know they have, reflect. They collect light. That's how they see at night. They have their own night vision. They can pick you out hundreds of yards away in the dark. I've experienced them do that to me. Now, that's different than seeing them refract light or ambient light or whatever light's being shined on them. And it really boils down to what are their nighttime capabilities. How many people walk by them? How many researchers go out in the woods with a Q-beam, walking around, or even less than that, a flashlight, and walk right by one? And that's that's counterproductive to research.
Yeah.
How do we solve that problem?
Well, let's throw another factor into this. Even subterranean animals that we have extracted fish from the bottom of the ocean that had biochemical luminescence to their body. But I don't know of any animal, hopefully somebody could correct me on this, even that we've extracted from caves. Look at bats. They don't have self-ambient lights in their eyes. I don't know of any animal that has that. Even fish, they have. You see a lot of. I've never seen a video of a deep sea fish running around with two flashlights strapped to his head. I hate to put it that way, and I hope I don't make anybody mad, but biologically, we have no evidence of it in any other species.
Yeah, not on land.
I don't think with fish we've had bioluminescence in the body,
right,
but not in the eyes.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm not saying they produce something that makes the eye shine. My theory on it is that they collect light
and reflect
it back out if they're looking right at you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm totally agreeing with you. I'm totally agreeing with you there. That if in saying that, I have to revert back to what we was talking about in the middle of an open field with no outside stimulus. I've never seen self-ambient light, and even in moonlight. Every time you've seen, and I have to ask this question: have you ever seen? Because there's been some questions in the deal about it. Every time that you had reflective eye shine, did you have your flashlight on, or was it off, or both?
The only time that I saw, the first one I had a light on. The first time in the dark I had a light on. Second one, every time I had a light on except for we were completely in the dark, just ambient light, except for the IR emitters on the camera. Those were the only things going, and I can't say that's what was shining out there. I know IR was shining out there. I can't see IR. I can't say it was the IR. It could have been, because I wasn't looking through the camera. When you look through the camera, everything IR has a kind of grayish blue tint to it. I'm just in the dark. I've been in the dark for 2 hours. I have.
But you did have cameras that you did have cameras running.
Yeah, camera was running. I got a picture of me standing there, and the eye shine's right there.
Okay, how far away from the source of the light was the eyes?
100 yards. That light shined 75 yards. What that IR would shine. It was a super bright IR, and it fell just short. And my thing is I don't even, if it would have been 50 yards in, I still don't know if we'd have seen it. That's the whole point of tonight. Is I don't know if you could walk through the woods with IR and catch one at 40 yards, 30 yards, however close you want to be, 6 feet like I was with the damn Q beam. Would you see it in IR? You know, that's part of the whole point tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do know.
Well,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, let's address let's address the eye shine real quick before we move on, because I want to get to what you guys are talking about with everything else.
Okay.
With the rest of their bodies, but is it fair enough to say like a Sasquatch would have eyes, you know, this big around, as opposed to a raccoon?
Absolutely, that's what I
would have eyes this big, and boy, you could see raccoon eyes at night pretty easily. So is that fair?
Yeah. You see the lens on them glasses right there?
Yep.
That would be small compared to the eye that I seen.
Yeah, big pupils. They would have huge pupils.
I'm talking pupils bigger than my thumb.
Yeah. And they're not abnormally large for the creature. The creature is just that large, or the species. But in what you was just saying, Patrick, about the IR, we do know, Curious Cryptid, you can verify this for me. We do know that IR will push farther than regular light. Literally, night vision, we used to take IR emitters and shine it out with our military, and 300 yards, it just lights it up like a spotlight in a night vision. So, because it's a shorter range, Curious Cryptid would have to fill everybody in on that, but it's it's almost like a sound wave, but it's tighter. Yeah.
Well, getting to thermals. I've had experience with thermals. I've had experience with Sasquatch in thermals. The one in Central Louisiana, Christy Sci-Fi, shooting a thermal attached to her phone. She pans out to where we hear one run to break a stick, is walking around and stops, and she pans past there and catches something. I'm not saying it is, but to me, I walked out there, you know, after that happened, I walked out there tracking and tracked it, and there was nothing by the tree that she shined that would make that shape there. So I can't say it was a Sasquatch, but I can say there was nothing there that would create that, and I did track a Sasquatch there. So, that being said, in Central Arkansas, the same weekend we saw that one, it was actually the next night after we saw the one in the field. We have one on thermal. The landowner has the Trigicon night scope 6-power, and is watching one go up the hill. Because I did single knock, didn't answer. I did double knock, didn't answer. I did 4 knocks. Well, this thing starts walking, and I'm not seeing it. He is. So he calls me, hey, I got something on thermal, and I see it, and it's going away from us. So I go to a double whistle, which, you know, if I was being too aggressive towards a female, she would be running. So, you know, and in my experience, the male whistles to a female most of the time if it's a familiar, and so I go to a double whistle, and I start doing double whistle. It turns, it comes back into 40 yards downhill, and is laying in a gully, and the landowner says, here, and you know, and I'm 40 yards from this thing, and it's downhill from me. So I take the Trigicon, I'm looking, and I see this face, and it's up, and there's a gully behind it, but its head is up above the gully. It's laid down, and I'm looking at the face. But it's, and I'm like, I couldn't. It's hard to describe. You know, it was fuzzy, but it wasn't blurry. It was a bright hot. It was actually like a pale green in the Trigicon. And so I tried to take off to it. I couldn't, because I'm thinking thinking I could see. But so I hand the thermal to the guy who has the AR also. I take off running, going to tackle this thing. It's laying down. So my plan is I'm going to run down there, I'm going to jump over the top of his head and wrap his legs up and hold on to it. That was the plan. Well, by the time I get there, it's gone. I wasn't fast enough. But that was my experience with thermal. So,
well,
I don't know.
let's talk about that. I want to open that discussion up because my good friend Gary, he has done the research, and so he's kind of right there with me, man. Gary, when it comes to advanced thermal, what do you think, man? To be honest with you, dude, like you and I did our thing, several months ago, but honestly, like I'm not sure how they will show up on advanced thermal. Now, what Patrick's talking about and what other people have mentioned, like the FLIR Scout, that's actually, I hate to say it, it's cheap thermal.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? $1,500? That's not fucking cheap, bro. We're talking $10,000 is your starting point for actual good thermal. What do you think, Gary?
I have to be very careful how I say this because I am by far not an expert on the subject, but I have spent a lot of time laying across a rifle looking through thermal. From
A10 Thor, right?
Back then, no, it was the A10 Thor was nothing back when I got it. We're talking 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago in the military. They still haven't touched that level yet.
Gotcha.
With A10 technology. It's good. I love the A10 Thor, and we use them now hog hunting.
Right.
But the level of technology we're talking about back then is not as good as the good stuff that the civilian market has now. Now, I've heard too many people say, and I would totally agree, that levels of clothing changes the temperature gauges, and that's one of the first things we look at, that I personally look at for a Sasquatch. If we do have hair, if you spend enough time behind a thermal looking at animals, you can tell what the hair does in the fur coverage. And there is a difference, folks, in between hair and fur. But you can tell the difference in what you're looking at. And that's the first thing that I do. You can tell what clothes looks like with the A10 Thors. I mean, you can literally tell how tall they are, how fast they're moving, and you can tell the difference in between a person wearing clothing, a woven clothing, absorbs the heat and releases heat at a different level than fur. And I love how, Patrick described one of his sightings not through a thermal, but it makes perfect sense. If a animal, you look at gorillas and anything, even humans, we have hair that grows here, but we have very little hair that grows here. We have very little hair on our high impact areas. So you can use the technology, and I'll get to the technology side of it in just a minute, to identify a Sasquatch. So that's the first thing I look at when I see thermal is, does it look like an animal standing there, or does it look like a human with woven fabric over his vitals? Now, technology-wise, folks, there is technology out here now that literally they're using it as we speak in businesses that up to 150 to 300 feet can half a temperature point variation on your body. They're using it right now for COVID tracking. That's old technology. They're using the same thermal technology, and we did a show on it, me and Pat did, that finds gas leaks at 1,000 to 2,000 feet. And these things are moving, 20, 30 mile an hour? They can tell because compressed anything, air, gas, anything, comes out colder than they're using it. Looking at, I use it myself, and I love how Big Dog put it. He builds custom stereos, and he uses his thermal to find circuits that are clogged up. We use them in the heating and air industry, in the electrical industry, for variances there. Thermal technology, if you can afford it, is going to be the next thing. This thermal stuff that people are buying, and I understand $1,500 is a lot of money. An A10 Thor scope, the one I'm looking at, you're talking $4,000, and it'll tell you how big it is, how fast it is, how far away it is. It'll even tell you if it's reaching out there and scratching his nose. But there's technology out here now that's available that's capable of 10 times that level. Mm-hmm. And
the Trijicon I was using was crystal clear.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was you're talking a $66,900 rifle scope that was taken off a rifle. Matter of fact, the purchaser of it he's a former scout sniper. But you know, it's just, and what I was looking at was it was looking like a glowing basketball.
Yeah.
That's what I looked at. That was a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
You know,
Which
that's what I was
very,
looking at.
very good.
You know, well, that's why I handed him. I already handed him my AR, and then I just handed him the thermal. I said, if something breaks loose, just shoot up amongst us because one of us gonna need some relief, and I take off, and it's gone when I get there. And I was kicking myself because I had a spotlight the night before in my pocket. I didn't shine the thing at 100 yards with the damn camera right there, you know. But then, you know, 6 months later, I shined one at 6 feet. And I'm like, it wouldn't matter if I'd shined it or not. It didn't show up, you know.
Yeah. Bobcat had a real good question. Is there any way to hide your own heat signature? Folks, I got out in 2000. So you're talking 20 years ago.
Right back.
You're talking 20 years ago, we was using thermal scopes looking through 6 inches of concrete. You know, that everybody thinks of the best way to put it would be the movie Navy SEALs, where they're talking about God shooting through the wall. This was 20 years ago. I'm going to say personally, you could go out there and wrap yourself with tinfoil unless you was to use a self-cooling suit, you know, almost like a, you know, something that was soaked in something. I don't think you can. Because of the temperature variances, it's going to pick up any temperature variance. A cold spot, if you're using artificial coolant, and you know, Patrick, I mean, Pat, you're in on this just as much as I am because you did the research with me. If you're using a coolant type system, it better match the air temperature and the stuff around you, because I would say no. There's no way of doing it in any technology that I've seen. I mean, you could put on a lot of clothes, but it's still going to show. Watch the Predator movie. You can do it with mud. You're still going to have a temperature variance. Anytime the mud cracks, or what are you going to do about your armpit areas? As soon as you put the mud on, unless you're sitting stagnant and bury yourself in the mud. Yeah, I could see that. Even your eyes. Okay, you don't stuff mud in your eyes? A good thermal scope is going to pick up the heat variances differences in your eyes. I use mud to protect myself from other things like mosquitoes and but you're muted, Pat.
My bad. I'll say this, Gary, and it goes back to our conversation that we had in a very lengthy, almost 2-hour sort of discussion about thermal technology. Is that, I mean, it'd be extremely, extremely hard to hoax a thermal signature. The thermal camera, an advanced, not fucking shitty FLIR, but an advanced thermal camera will see the subject better than your own eyes.
Yeah.
In real time. Yeah.
Curious Cryptid came out and says, I've watched a demo using a space blanket as a tent. Very well put, Curious. Now, the problem that you have with that is you're going to have to be a certain distance from the inside of you could do that for a while, but if you had the tent enclosed, your body heat because it reflects both ways, is going to eventually raise the ambient temperature even inside.
Yep.
So you could do that temporarily, and you would also have to make sure that your body is, you know, a certain distance. You'd have to be equally distanced all the way around of the tent. I think you could do that for a few minutes, but if you're laying stagnant, because we got into this real serious in sniper school, because we was trying everything we could, because you can't hide from FLIR. And folks, if you ever watch the documentaries and learn, I mean, literally, it's one of the hardest schools out there. They'd literally have 2 spotters or 3 spotters on the hill, and we'd be sneaking in, and they would have ranging cadre come out. And if they see any kind of anomaly, they're literally, you've got to move less than a quarter of an inch at a time. It usually takes you about 10 to 12 hours to cover 100 yards. And they would literally, if they see any kind of anomalies, they would tell by radio, the range cadre that was in the field, walk forward 10 feet, to the right 10 feet until they got to that anomaly. And if they could reach out and touch you, you're done. So we was even, and that's with just cameras. I mean, just binoculars. Now with thermal, they're doing studies right now on how to do that because we're losing people because of thermals. Yeah. I mean, look right here. This is thermal right now. I mean, they've got the level. I'm not going to show the videos, but they've got videos of thermal showing women that look, or people, we'll say women and people. I wouldn't want to look at the guys, maybe the girls would, but, that look almost blatantly without clothes, and they've got clothes on because of the thermal signatures.
Yeah, you can see through their clothes. This blows my mind. This is about a 1 mile away. These two kayakers.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, the stark contrast. You can clearly see. I mean, the guy's up on his knees there, but they're both up on their knees.
Now, prime example. Look at the bathing suit of the guy up on his knees. See the darkness? Okay, that's a woven fabric. You're going to get that with a Sasquatch. Look at the vest. You can literally see the vest.
Yep,
folks. This is probably a $30,000 scope. Military's got stuff 3 times better than this. I mean, 4 times better than this.
And this is this is military grade observational technology.
Yeah.
That was from like a mile away.
Yeah.
So just imagine being 100 feet away. It's going to be conclusive. But Patrick, do they put out a thermal signature?
I believe they do change the temperature around them enough to observe them.
And you used an example. You told me the other day. You said, the way the buffalo, the snow will stick to the buffalo's fur and not melt because it's not, so
because of insulation, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, how does that affect thermal signature?
Well, in the wintertime, when we were filming with the most basic thermal you can buy that goes onto an iPhone,
right?
The image that was captured appeared to be colder than what was around it. Okay, which means the heat could have been very well insulated inside whatever was the outer shell was. That was my theory, or is the type of thermal being used. With the $6,900 Triggers at 40 yards, I saw a glowing basketball.
Yeah,
that was, so you're talking 2 different levels of thermal, but on the good side, and if you're spending money on a good thermal, that's what you'll have. I think they will be able to be observable through thermal.
Here. Key point.
Okay, good.
Yes, I
good. So I won't be wasting $10,000. Awesome. Go ahead, Gary.
With a good thermal.
90-10.
It doesn't have to show. Here's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to show up red hot. It could show up colder. The temperature variance is where you're going to get the definition.
That's what I was getting at with my first answer.
Yeah. I mean, with the thermal technology we have now, the temporal variance. But here's the thing: if they can manipulate and go cold like that, have you ever looked at a snake or an alligator through a thermal? It's interesting because you can see it, but it's like it's modeled. So if you, I wonder if I could pull that up on Google. Pat, see if you can. But you can still see them. But if they're behind cover doing that, good question.
Yeah,
because
my target time will be February of 2022. That would be a good target time because here in the fall and the winter is full of hunters. You got squirrel hunters, bow hunters, rifle hunters. Then you got your primitive firearms coming up, run until January. So mid-February, whatever the dark moon is on February, because I use moon phases also because they know that they camouflage well. It's not just that they camouflage well in dark, they know it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fixing to send you one, Patrick.
So sometime between
Yeah, or just pull it up. Just pull it up for
yeah.
viewing. Yeah,
But
don't send it to me. I'm having a hard time here. Sorry.
But sometime between the end of January to
Share screen.
to the second week of March is a good window to try to use thermal.
Well, I say this: where I live, in North Georgia, late November to mid March.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
here is good. It's just the people, because you'll have 25, 50 hunters that you have to deal with, plus the game wardens that are out there, and rangers watching them. And so after that, you have
Yeah.
a window between the end of January and mid-March and turkey season. After that, you got a window there that
Yeah.
I like to make use of. And a lot of times the water's up, and so it pushes them and confines them in other areas.
all right. Okay. The snake is about the same pattern as the clothes and the shoes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Very,
that is
very close to the shoes. Yeah.
that is extremely interesting. Do you see the tail of that snake?
Yeah.
How the middle you can't see it, but the sides you can? That is almost like the glistening of the hair that was in my brightest spotlight.
Huh.
Yeah, but if you light up a freaking snake at night, you're gonna see it in your spotlight.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can light
100%.
anything. Yeah, I've lit up alligators. Everything that walks and breathes in my area, I've encountered, and most of them have had a spotlight, just not to shoot or anything, but to see them. So,
Why would you think that snake's tail would be subdued like that?
man, I don't know.
Laying on the
I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yep, yeah. I mean, got twisted around, just whatever, like those signatures. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking here, where I'm looking as the snake, where it's most sort of lit up, right? About the same as the guy's hip over here. Same
Yeah,
signature.
but you see the dark spots in the center of the snake. A
And
snake is a cold-blooded animal, so he is going to radiate whatever he's touching. So if
Right.
he's touching the ground, he's going to radiate the coolness and the dampness of the ground around him. That's the whole thing the whole idea of the space blanket. If you could pull it over you temporarily and lay on the ground, it would literally drop the temperature.
Yeah. And you could still see it. And again, that was not like great thermal. That was sort of your basic,
This one, yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was very basic thermal. And so yeah, with the advanced thermal, you're going to see even more.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to wonder though, with some of the things we've been talking about tonight, and their hair and white. I put the light right on them, still can't see it. Like am I wasting 10 grand and everyone's time trying to fly around and find them out there?
Well,
Would they, if they put off a normal thermal signature, that's going to be the most amazing observational footage we've ever seen. So, go ahead, Patrick.
Well, think about the person who proved that the world was round and sailed around it, and the expense of that and the risk of it. So it's risk and adventure. It takes a little investment, to prove the Earth is round.
The Earth is not round, dude. It's flat. I don't know what you're talking about, Patrick. Do you want to debate me on whether the Earth is round or not? It's clearly flat. Okay. Are you?
I just thought I'd throw it out there,
Are you kidding me? The Earth is flat, dude.
I'm not. I won't be impressed unless that's a flat Earth T-shirt. All right.
Right. Half the people are not going to get that joke, by the way, here, and that's fine. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Gary? You think they'll put out a good thermal signature for me to pick up on and hone in on?
Honestly, a lot of it would. I think if we get a thermal signature from them, it's going to be from an aerial platform, less evasive. But I think a lot of it's going to depend on tree cover. It's going to depend on what they're doing. It's going to
Yeah.
depend on what you're dealing with. I mean, I have to be very careful with this. If it puts out heat, a thermal camera is going to pick it up.
Right.
If it puts out how do you say that? Temperature
Yeah.
variations, a thermal camera will pick it up. But if it's just minor temperatural variations, if it has any kind of cover, you're not going to catch it.
Sure. That's fair enough.
Prime example.
Yeah.
And very accurate description and very decent technology for the time. They mentioned the movie Predator. He was sitting static in water covered in mud. And you could just barely, you pass over him and and that was a true shot because I've seen that style of thermal before. You pass over him and you can see his outline, but you can't see the red hot. And then they see whatever that little varmint was that he shot. A lot of it is going to be what the cover looks like and what, I've seen thermal footage of something running through the woods that looks like a Bigfoot. Yeah, we dropped Patrick for some reason.
Right.
I've seen thermal footage from Fort Benning, Georgia of them with using military grade thermal and something running through the woods. And I swear if anybody's seen it, they'd think it was a Bigfoot. And it was a guy in sniper school wearing a ghillie suit because the new ghillie suits have certain things in them that I'm not going to talk about and I don't care what people says. I'm just not going to say it that reflects thermal. I'm not going to even mention that technology. It's very simple technology. If you want to Google it, they can probably tell it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to put myself in it, but that does reflect thermal. Even the military camo net that they put over the top of the vehicles has certain properties that helps dissipate and reflect thermal and radar images. It's the reason you have the little metal rings on the netting. But it's I think if we do get good thermal, it's going to be from an aerial platform.
I agree. I just want to know that there's a freaking thermal signature to actually pick up. I
think that a actual Sasquatch, yes, I
should be.
Yeah,
it's naked, covered in hair, but that hair has to keep it warm, right? So.
But even at that, I mean, with even the technology you're talking about getting, I mean that daggum thing picks up, 0.3 degrees at like 100 feet, so you're going to see something.
Yeah, man. Yeah, me and Gary, with the platform I'm talking about, me and Gary both saw with our own eyes a freaking squirrel.
Yeah.
A squirrel in a tree in Florida, no doubt. Like not Georgia in the middle of winter when the canopy's down, but a squirrel running around in a goddamn tree from what? A couple hundred feet away?
Yeah, 300
maybe
feet.
more? Maybe 300 feet? Yeah.
Raptor Crazy was talking about colored thermal and black and white thermal. Colored thermal we call red hot thermal, and then
basically
it's more for really dialing in, and then the black is more of a passive thermal. But it's just like the hogs,
I'll bring up an example. Yeah, good. Keep going, Gary. I'll bring up
folks. If you want to watch that show, it's on my channel and on Pat's. But we actually, a friend of ours with that same platform sent us video of hogs in brush at 500 feet. And you've seen the brush cover over the top of them. And with not even the red hot, with the black, you can see every hog under the cover. And he said it was a 13-foot cover of leaves. And that's, the technology is there. And this is where I'm getting at again on my general statement. Patrick dropped his phone. That's what I was getting at. Patrick dropped it. No.
I apologize.
What are we dealing with? Are we dealing with a physical being? Or are we dealing with a spiritual being that can be physical part of the time? We've got to keep digging until we find this out.
Agree.
Yes. Curious Cryptid, you're absolutely right. The same thermal, you can switch them from the gray to I call it cold to hot, but you can go from cold to red hot at different variances, different levels thereof.
Yeah. So and in real time, actual real time visual.
Absolutely.
Also, yeah.
So where does all this leave the investigator that's going in the field right now? Game plan wise, of walking right by them in the dark, not seeing them. Are we saying focusing on eye shine now? To try to see them without a thermal, or are we saying invest in good thermal? I mean, what can the average investigator watching this, how can he benefit?
Honestly, I'd say do both. Have one team on and one team on the other. The only way we're going to get this done is boots on the ground and research. Even Pat can't. He could fly for a week and not hit the right area. You have to have the boots on the ground.
I agree. Okay, so as far as that context goes, Gary, I agree. Like, you got to if you tell me, hey man, for sure, they're within a 4 square mile area of this area. Yeah, I could run that 4 square mile, like, boom.
5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah, maybe 20 tops thoroughly, right? So yes, opposed to me going, I'm going to go up on my overlooks in North Georgia and just look around, and I know this area, they could be there, but so like somebody like Patrick Vaughn offers hey, they're here, and here, and you can nail that shit down, then I'm 100% more focused on that on an area than I would be otherwise randomly looking, let's say, and that's what it's going to take. So that is where the boots on the ground comes into question. But I don't need anybody going out there and flushing them out or fucking disturbing them. I'm going to catch them without people gear. I'm going to catch them when they're not in people gear. Patrick, Vaughn, do you understand that? What people gear is? When people come around, they go into people mode. Fuck that.
Well, my goal is to call them in, and have them observe aerial like that. But
we can do that too.
But also, I wanted to pose this. Here in the South with the hog epidemic, it seems like it's a contributing factor to the population explosion that I've found tracking down here. And thinking about something that someone else that you had on the show.
That's good food source. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, someone you'd had on the show previously, not too long ago, said that they're rare, or they felt that they're rare up north. Well, exactly where is that Mason-Dixon line of hog, problem at? If they're invading further north into more areas of this, more states, will they become, the same up there? More, population explosion in Tennessee, Kentucky, or wherever, opposed to, say, the Canadian border. I don't know if there's any hogs at the Canadian border.
I have no idea either, actually. Like, I don't know. I could ask Steve Coles, who lives in upstate New York. Are there hogs up there? Like, I don't even know.
They've got a few, but they're not as rampant as they are in the South. My best friend Jeremiah.
Jeremiah lives up there too. Yeah.
He lives right on the border, and there's a few up there, but it ain't nothing like it is down here. It's just not conducive. There's hogs in the Siberia and Russia, but they're just not as conducive as it is here. I don't know what it is. I think it was all the hog farmers down here they got loose.
Yeah, they go feral real fast. They within 1 or 2 generations can go feral and grow.
Oh yeah, an individual hog.
Yeah,
Lockbeard had a good point. Quickly replenished food source. I know this personally because we've had hog farms and everything else. A hamp, if you went out and got a hamp hog or a say a Yorkshire and released him within 90 days, their teeth will start growing farther. Their spines on the back of within 90 days, they'll start getting the ridge on the back, because half of what happens with the hogs in captivity is they're always, how many times you see hog farms, they're chewing on the fences, chewing on the rails. A hog's teeth grow somewhat similar of a beaver's, not as fast, but they do grow and they change. I mean, they literally,
they go feral. They go absolute feral. A pig. A beautiful pink little pig, right? They can go feral in 1 or 2 generations.
Well, I found swaths through the woods that I track in, 50 to 60 feet wide, churned like you would take a plow in and churn it, miles long. I mean, that's the type of pig epidemic I'm talking about. Hundreds of head of pig. Where they're rubbing their sides on the trees. And I mean, literally 50 to 60 yards from one side, it's a giant wallow. To the other, the earth, there's not a part of the earth that isn't turned.
It's a good food source. I mean, that's a great food source, actually. And pigs are yummy. Let's face it.
Hey, well, you're a heathen if you don't like bacon.
Stays next to them.
I'm actually trying to find some pictures. I've got some pictures somewhere of the back side of my property where there's about 30 pigs running on the back of the property, and they look like a bunch of hamps. The black and white pigs, black with a white stripe.
Well, 30 will turn into 100 pretty quick.
Oh yeah. I guess they're not on my phone no more. Here's a key factor. I was literally on the Red River last weekend. Was it last weekend? Yeah, not this previous weekend, but the weekend before that for 4 days. And I've got pictures. I do have pictures of that, literally acres of hayfield tore up. It looked like just like a battlefield almost. Holes in the ground, mounds, and everything else from hogs. We walked out there. I mean, just ripped apart. I don't know how many times we heard. I don't know how many times we heard hogs squealing in the night.
I wonder if a Squatch was getting one.
The thought kind of crossed my mind.
But I can testify that I have cooked hogs in a place I can't talk about, in a community I can't mention, and have had this target species circle camp smelling that roasted pig, which is my fault. I fed 2 of them, and then he grew up and wanted more, but I know they love roasted pork from my observation. But I really wanted to have this discussion tonight to try to get out observations of their nighttime capabilities, how they camouflage in the dark, how many people have seen them in the dark, and can correlate what we're seeing, because you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing. I know I had a discussion with Daniel Benoit about what he saw, and he saw a few of them in the dark, and he says, now you mention it, my headlight didn't light them up. I just saw them in the ambient light that was in the atmosphere. That's what he expressed to me. I hope he doesn't mind me expressing that. But that's just something that was said, and so that's at least 3 people. Definitely 2 that have had the same thing happen to them in the dark. And what does it mean? Where does it lead us to? How can we combat it?
Yeah. I'm dealing with some comments over here. I'm trying to think of the best way to. I'm going to say this.
See them.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. No matter what is said in this community, it's been said before. No matter what's been done in this community, it's been done before. You know, where no matter what, so far, everywhere I've been doing this 24, 25 years. And I guarantee you 90% of the stuff I've said, somebody else has said it, because for lack of better terms, great minds think alike. You know, it's just common sense, you know, talking about hogs, talking about this, talking about that. Until we step out of that state of mind. And I think, and I'm going to be brutally blunt honest. I think that the aerial drone, no matter who does it, if Pat does it or whoever does it, is going to be the next point, because of the less evasive, not getting in and changing their behaviors. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pat is right. They go into people mode.
Yeah, and that's my point. I'm glad you realized that, Patrick, and you should. Like, that's the right answer for a guy who has experience out there with them. That's what they do when people come around. They go into that gear of dealing with fucking people. So my thought has always been, for a long time now, take people out of the equation. That's how you get observation on a Sasquatch. Of course, trail cams have been tried for decades, you know, and that's not working for whatever reason. Fair enough. But trail cams are static. They're not proactive. Now we have the technology to be proactive. It's called an aerial thermal platform. So get the fuck out there and do that. That's what I'm going to do, and take people out of the equation. And I'm not going to put your life in danger, or Gary's, or anybody's. Say, hey, go flush them out. Because if they get suspicious of whatever's in the sky, they take notice of it, they might take it out on you, because you're right there. Does that make sense? Like, what are you doing to me right now? This weird mechanical bird is watching me, and I know it's watching me. I'm fucking taking it out on you, Patrick. I would never put anybody's life in danger like that. So I'm not going to do this tag team shit with the drone.
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my hands up there and take off running from the drone, screaming, it's got me, you know.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to throw that drone under the bus, baby.
Yeah, but the drone is up there. Nobody can touch it. So my point is this, is that I don't want to involve people, because I feel like their lives could be in danger, because if the Sasquatch had a bad reaction to the drone, which is something they're not used to hearing or seeing or dealing with, it's not a bird or even a plane or anything. It's something that's hovering right on fucking top of them. And I think they'd be aware of that and take it out on you guys on the ground.
You want to hear something funny, guys? I just typed in a response to one of the comments, and it's literally locked up. It won't let me respond. Did you turn off the comments or something?
No, I didn't do anything.
Did somebody block me? Is there any moderators on here outside of you?
Nikki is the only moderator, and she would not block you.
Okay, we're going to do it this way.
Hi, Nikki.
The person that will know who they are. Very well. I'm going to read it without leaving the name. Very well said. It doesn't change my opinion of all parties involved. If you don't like him or them or anybody else, it doesn't change my opinion of you at all. Your thoughts and belief are yours, and I respect that of all parties. He'll know who I'm talking about. Because it sure ain't letting me. It's literally locked up. That's weird.
I'm sorry, dude. I promise you that is not on my end. And Nikki...
No, Nikki ain't going to do that.
Nikki's the only... She's the only mod in YouTube, so...
I'll say it. He don't care. Raptor, that was for you, brother.
Yeah, I see that. I see...
You see the conversation going on?
A little bit. Yeah, I saw that.
Raptor, that's for you. I mean, that's your opinion, brother, and I respect that 100%. It doesn't change my opinion of you at all. I respect your opinion and your information a lot. You know, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure. I think maybe something's getting lost in the context there.
He knows what's going on. We're talking about something totally different.
All right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. It's totally different. And
He knows what's going on. He knows.
I do not want to get into all that.
No.
But all joking aside, what we were discussing about putting people's lives in danger. As long as my hands are empty with my group, I'm pretty good. As long as I don't have technology on me. Now if something flies over them and my hands are empty, I'm not sure they'd associate with me. But where I'm at, I'm right there at my truck too. And I usually do have something with me just in case something goes on and I have to take care of myself,
Yeah,
But,
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, I'm right there with you, Patrick. My only point is this: it doesn't matter if anything's in your hands or not. I'm just concerned about any kind of correlation between, this is something new that I've never encountered, and you're fucking here. It doesn't matter if anything's in your hands or not.
Well, I can't.
And I don't want that correlation to become dangerous.
Well, I do.
Even though I would get great footage of somebody being killed by a Sasquatch, that I mean, I could probably make $1 million off that, honestly, but don't want it to happen.
Just make sure it's a college fund for my kids or something. But well, my question is on the drone, flying the drone. Can you fly the drone when it's not in line of sight?
What do you mean, line of sight?
I mean, if you're half mile away.
Oh yeah, you can pre-program flights using GPS.
Yeah, you can. Okay, so no. There needs to be as best of line of sight as possible.
Unless you use the GPS programming.
Unless you program it to go to a point. You're right.
Well, what about first person view?
Yeah, that's automatic. I see it on my screen, first person.
I mean, because I pay attention to a YouTube channel called Flight Test, and they put these goggles on, and they got the camera on, and they can just take off on the quad or whatever it is, and fly, and they're just watching through.
Okay, yeah, I don't need the goggles. I don't need the goggles. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
so
really,
I have a screen. I can have a screen like this.
Here's a key point, though. Here's my thoughts. If, just saying, Pat has a certain area or Patrick has a certain area that he knows that he can go in and get activity, to not worry about that line of sight thing, you could program it. I mean, it can literally be programmed to follow Patrick around. I mean, literally, they'll follow you. But you could program to do a GPS sweeping to get the area until.
Sure. But again, Gary, and you and I talked about this in our original presentation. I'm a hands-on guy. I'm not trying to do autonomous shit with the drone.
Yeah,
I want hands-on control, and so that will require some kind of elevation. The more I can get, the better. 1,000 feet elevation, or 30 feet elevation.
Well,
I got to get through the tree line. The tree line will fucking disrupt everything after half a mile. Yep.
Well, I mean, there is a place about a mile away, and it is, with a scope you can see me. If you can fly to me, maybe, but there's no trees there. From one point, the contention of that, the one bad thing about it, if it's Sasha, that's one place Sasha crosses because of the woods neck down right there. And, any closer than that, it's wide open. I mean, you're not going to hide from them. You're going to have to be somewhere like at a sniper hide, a ways off, and be able to send your drone.
Yeah, that's fine. In Louisiana, a rooftop would be suitable.
There ain't no rooftop out there, buddy.
All right. It's that similar elevation.
You'd have to be, say, in the back of the truck, covered up.
No,
And the nearest, you know,
I'm
Well,
not
Pat's
looking.
saying-
I'm not looking within 200 yards, bro. I'm looking within 2 miles. So
Yeah.
I don't have to be fucking sniper hide. Otherwise, I'll
Well-
see them. If they're within 200 yards of me, I'll fucking see them.
Well, I think what Pat's saying is you're going to have to be, you're going to have to be a quarter of a mile to a mile out, or you're going to, the other presence is going to influence.
Exactly.
The-
I want that kind of distance. Yeah, I want that quarter mile,
And
mile distance.
If
yeah.
Patrick is talking about where I think he is, there is a high spot just to the north of that. Patrick, as you come in,
yeah, there's a high spot.
right there at
and-
that left-hand turn, right-hand turn. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
but-
trying to get up on them. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
well-
stay away from them.
Well, what I'm thinking is can you stay hidden far enough away and still fly to me and do what you need to do? That's
Oh, yeah.
my question.
Yeah, but
Oh,
I don't understand what you mean by hidden.
You're not going to be able to hang out there. Okay, any human is like a naked man with his hair on fire. Okay, they can see, and this is a wide open place. Okay, it's kind of like hiding in the desert. Okay, you can't hide. You got to get behind something, or you got to be in a truck or behind a truck or in the back.
Dude, I mean, if I'm half a mile away, I mean, what is that? Roughly, 2,500 feet.
Well, it's 1 mile from my knock investigation area to the next high spot that is kind of secluded.
All right,
that
I
you can
can
have a truck at.
cover 1 mile in about 40 seconds. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, you'll be able to see on your screen at night and fly at
Yep.
night in the dark.
Yes.
Now,
absolutely.
Now the thing is, where I'm at could have some trees. Where the camp, where I'm knocking at does have a few oak trees in there. You may have to be up in elevation, and Little Sam always comes from the south usually. But Samantha, if Sasha comes in, she's gonna come right next to you, on top of you. I mean, knocking doors with you, walking by your truck if it's her. So depending on who it is
Dude,
whether they're going to cross right in front of you.
I'll be 200 feet in the air. I'll bring it down to 100.
Yeah.
How tall are the trees? I'll bring it all the way to the canopy.
There's oak trees in there you can't hug.
No, I'm saying I won't go below the top of the canopy.
That canopy line's probably 90 to I'd say 75 to 90 feet tall.
All right, then we got him, Gary. We got him, dude. 100 feet? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We saw that.
As long as the cover's not there. If you go in the wintertime, I think it's prime area because I know the top.
Yeah, we saw that squirrel, Gary. You and I both saw that squirrel at about
that was
300 feet. So.
300, and then the hogs was at 500.
Yeah.
Guys, Mama just texted me and says she wants those steaks that I was on throw in the smoker earlier.
And she should.
And so I've got to get off of here. So
All right.
All
right, we're gonna wrap it up then, man.
No, y'all keep going. Y'all keep going. I'm going to go.
No. We're 2 hours in, man. I'm just gonna wrap it up. Thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Everybody in chat, Raptor, Lockbeard, man. We got a good crowd tonight, man. And thank you so much, Patrick, for being on. This was actually kind of your idea, and it worked out. Thank God that we could bring Gary in tonight, who similar kind of a person to bounce off of, and and it sucks Daniel couldn't make it, man. He had his reasons, everybody. Like Daniel Benoit, he had his reasons why he couldn't make it. He had some family stuff to deal with and personal things. So, but dude, Gary and Patrick, thanks guys for being here. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you. I was trying to get any observations out so maybe it could benefit, people in the field going out, maybe next weekend after that, whatever they're doing. They'll know that you can shine a light on them and not see them. High probability from what we've observed. Maybe if they have a thermal, they won't leave it in the truck. So.
Yeah, man. That's how it gets done, guys, and Bigfoot world and people outside the Bigfoot world. This is how it gets done. But hopefully we'll pick up that signature, right, Gary?
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Now the stupid. There we go. Sorry, I didn't call nobody stupid. I was calling my keyboard stupid.
Oh man, you calling the tall one stupid?
Oh, you don't want to mess with
Never
him.
called him
He'll
stupid.
get.
Prime example. We've had me and him's had differences in opinions, but we don't let it get to us. I've had different opinions with all of you guys, and it don't.
Yeah, and hey, that's we're all fair about that here, man. We have differences of opinions, but
Gary has personally fired me before a couple of times.
Hey folks, me and Patrick has almost got in screaming matches on the phone.
Okay, wow. See, I haven't even come close to that with any of you guys, so I guess I have a long way to go before we get there, huh?
Yeah. Mama's texting me, guys. I got to get on.
I'm going to wrap it up, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to y'all later.
All right. Well, thanks again, man. Thanks, Patrick, for being here. This was kind of you sparked this idea, in our private conversation the other night. And I was like, yeah, that would be a good show to have. And I think we've had it. So, so it will be in the history books forever. And I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it up, man.
All right.
Unless you have anything
Thank you very much. No, I'm good. Thanks for letting us use your platform.
And your signal just went to shit. No one heard what you just said.
Sorry.
But hang tight, man. Hang out for the after show.
Right.
We're going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it so much. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. I hope I had a couple of Twitch viewers tonight. I think I did. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.